Franciscan sisters and brothers. Not long after the murder of George Floyd, I was part of what's called a peace circle, a group who were considering racism from a peace perspective. One of our members, whose ancestors came from Africa, said, "I am just so tired of explaining." The weariness and sorrow in her voice resonated with me. It is not her responsibility to help people who look like me understand what has gone wrong. It is my responsibility to find out for myself. We Franciscans are blessed to have brothers and sisters who are willing to help us on the path of discovering what racism means and what it has meant in our lives. But we need to go deeper on our own. There are helpful books, many of which have been mentioned in earlier videos in this series, and the Episcopal Church's Sacred Ground training program has helped open our eyes to things we did not know. Recently, I had an opportunity with a small group of Franciscans to look more closely at the Mystic Massacre. The Mystic Massacre took place in 1637 in Mystic, Connecticut, in the midst of the Pequot War. In the middle of the night, a group of English settlers and their allies from other tribes attacked a group of Pequot Indians, mostly women, children, and the elderly, as they slept. The two means of escape were blocked, and then the camp was set afire. It is believed that 600 people died. This was a brutal action. And this is only one example of the innumerable brutal acts that were committed in the conquering of the Americas. In looking at the Mystic Massacre, I began to wonder about the 17th century English settlers who came to what became America. 17th century England was a brutal place. There was civil war, the execution of a king, a fire destroyed much of London, and the plague. There was religious conflict. Men were hunted down and killed just for being Roman Catholic priests. The severed heads of the enemies of the state were mounted on pikes on London Bridge as a warning to others. England was involved in the global slave trade. There were witch trials and poverty and famine. Some people who came from England were indentured servants looking for a way to survive. And so fearful, traumatized people got on a wooden boat to spend 2 months crossing the North Atlantic. When they got to the Promised Land, just like in the Old Testament, they found there were already people living there. The battle for ownership and control of the land began. Land was important to people coming from a place where there was a limited amount of land available. Here they saw land for the taking, and take it they did. As St. Francis told the bishop in refusing a gift, if we had property, we would need arms to defend it. So these fearful, traumatized people began using force to take the land and kill those who already lived there. All across the Americas, people were killed and brutalized for land. People from Africa and the Americas were enslaved to work the land and generate wealth for the conquerors. There are some who believe that trauma can be passed down genetically. But even if this is not the case, fear is passed from generation to generation by what is learned in the home, the community, and at school. I, the descendant of settlers, grew up in a one-room country school in rural Iowa, playing at recess a running game, sort of a variant on tag, called Black Man. And why did it take me so long to figure out just how wrong the name of that game was? Over the centuries, many came to the Americas driven by fear and poverty. Let's face it, if things had been good in the homeland, they would never have left. Others were brought by force. And what the Reverend Martin Luther King called the triple evils of materialism, racism, and militarism took root early on. Our Franciscan principles provide guidance on what we can do. We can follow the way of service. We can pray, study, and work for justice and for reconciliation. We can work at the second aim, to spread the spirit of love and harmony, to break down barriers between people and to seek equality for all, to fight against the ignorance, pride, and prejudice that breed injustice. Tertiaries are not only to speak out for social justice and international peace, but put these principles into practice in our own lives. The charge is clear. We have been told what we Franciscans, the penitents, as we were called early on, have an obligation to do.